Monday message. So happy to be chatting with everybody today. The topic that we've got planned for today is a topic that is of vital importance to you and to me if we're going to make a big move in 2026. When we talk about mental strength, that's what I talked about in the little intro video I sent out. What we accomplished this year was based on what we overcame or didn't overcome. We overcame or didn't overcome things because of our current level of mental strength and resilience. So we can grow that next year. We will grow faster. So that's the point of today's call. We have another call coming up about planning 2026. We are bringing all resources to bear to make 2026 the best year in the history of TDG, of our family. We want it to be the best year in the history of your family. We want it to be a record-breaking year. So we've got a plan of calls coming out over the next few weeks. Excited about that. But let's get into the week that was. Let's look at all our producers over 1,000 from last week. We'll start with Noah. Then we got Irma. We got Maribel, Melissa, Mallory, Akeem, Merv, Ariel. We got Ronnie, Gwendolyn, Tyler, Chrissy, we got Sean Quigley, Tom Payne, we got Camille, we got Barrett, we got Jeanette, we got Chris, we got David, we got Devon and Nikki down there in Atlanta, we got Cleo, we got Mike Guerra, we got David Helgeson, we got Brianna coming in $5,472.63 with 8 apps. Way to go, Brianna. Oh, that's right. I got to move the slide. I was waiting for you to move the slide. Yee. Mimi Ramiro, $7,020.60. Newly qualified national manager Mimi Ramiro. Way to go, Mimi. You are one of the fastest growing people in the entire country right now. You are absolutely on fire. Cannot wait to be in Stanford with you this Wednesday and the crew that is going on up there. I can't wait to see what's happened since we were up there, and I can't wait to see, like, God, another 60, 90 days of growth up there. It's going to be insane. Adina Decker popping in 20 apps for $10,367.40. In between travels to California last week and battling a little bit of pink eye. I don't know if you were on the Monday message last week, you saw me kind of like that. Yeah. It was an interesting week. But I was on antibiotics by the time I got to California. Everybody should know that. All right. 6 applications, $11,979.35. Adam Burge dropping in 3 apps, $14,265.48. And I believe he has some monster annuities about to drop as well, if I remember correctly. Number 1 last week, Jeremy Go Edwards, 14 applications for $14,983. While all the rest of the industry says, you can't write business in December. It's the month of Christmas. Nobody will do business in December. I beg to differ. All right, top 5 paychecks last week. Always love this. Nick Greco, $3,853.20. Mimi Ramiro, $5,237.91. Growing the team, growing your paycheck. Personally producing, I mean, that's leading at a high level. I'm always confused, Mimi, when people have, things that they've got, they got things to say when it's like, but are you leading in all the areas? Are you selling? Are you building? Are you recruiting? You are selling, leading, building, recruiting, but I'm just so fired up and going national manager. You got so much good stuff going on right now. And I know there are multiple people in the base drafting right up behind you. This is going to be an exciting year. David Helgeson deposited last week $5,454.47. Mike Guerra deposited $6,277.38. Kath, way to go, Kath. Number 1 paycheck last week, deposited $7,516.56. Way to go, Kath. I am so proud of you. You are such a fighter. And I'm just telling you, you and Adam Burge led the way on estate planning. You guys weren't scared. You jumped in it. So I love seeing the fruitage. I love seeing that. That gets me so excited. All right, freedom last week. Who's building their dream? Like, here's the deal, and that's one of the things I'm going to talk about with our leaders after this call. Like, what is the plan to grow your recruiting number in the coming year? What is that plan? We've got to have a solid plan. Completed fast tracks. Adina Decker, Rogers and Kim completing fast tracks. The base shop here completed 5 fast tracks last week. Contracts last week, you got Crystal, we got Brian Allendorf out there in California, you got Vaughn, we got Adam Burge. Those all with 1 direct. Adam Burge contracting 3 direct last week, and the base shop contracting 5 direct. Way to go, Adam. I'm so proud of you investing in growth. That is one of the things, like when I see folks get into to estate planning, they start getting those paychecks. I'm like, invest that money in growing the team, invest that money in growing you a team, grow a team. So I'm so proud of you and Cindy for growing the team. It's going to be awesome to be in Thailand with you guys. Base shop contract at 5 direct. I think, never mind, I already read that. Rogers and Kim last week put someone in pre-licensing. Again, we don't get data from pre-licensing providers on that. So if you're putting people in pre-licensing, tell us. I want to give you recognition on this call every single week. Upcoming travel this Wednesday, Stamford, Connecticut. That is my last date for December. I am putting my January and February and March assault together. So here's what I want to know. Where do you have new growth? Where do you have new growth? I want to get there. I will go where the growth is. This is going to be a year of growth. So I'm planning out January. I'm planning out February. I'm planning out March. So where do you have new sharp people? I will go to where they are. Top year-to-date producers. I always like looking at this coming in as the year winds down, seeing who's going to make some moves. There could be a shift there. Kath, Jeremico, that's got tight. Mark can make a move too. You got David Helgeson right now, number 2. That's awesome, Kath. I'm just thinking about because I know how you've been climbing the boards. I'm so excited about that. Jeremico, that app count, killing it. And then Adam Burge, like way out in front, man. I'm so proud of you. What a massive year. I know you're going to have an even bigger year next year, man. So excited. That is so awesome, bro. All righty. Let's see. I think that's all my stuff for this call, because I think the next slide is for the next call. Yeah, next slide is for the next call. All righty. Cool. All right. So here's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about mental strength. Here's why. People that stay calm make better decisions. So think about this. When we lose our calm, when we get whipped up too high or too low, we lose our calm, we make bad decisions. When we're calm, we think more clearly. We think more clearly. We have less mental clutter. When people lose their calm, they go on all kinds of tangents. Too much mental clutter. You cannot be productive with extra mental clutter. Here's the other thing. When we're calm, we avoid jumping to conclusions. There's not much good that comes from jumping to conclusions, and here's why. And we can think back, I've done it, right? You've done it, right? Jumping to conclusion is acting in absolute faith on faulty information. I'll say it again. Jumping to conclusions is acting in absolute faith on faulty information. That's why anytime you've done it and anytime I've done it, it's created a mess, right? Because we acted in faith. We got whipped up. We acted in faith, but we had faulty information, so we made a faulty decision. Here's the other reason calm people make better decisions. Calm people are less likely to let fear take the wheel. When fear takes the wheel, here's the problem. Fear is going to turn the wheel away from your long-term goals. Fear is all about the immediate and the present. Fear does not factor in your long-term goals. Calm people are less likely to let fear take the wheel. Here's the other reason why calm people make better decisions. Calm people stay aware of the real consequences. See, when we lose our calm, we're not thinking of real long-term consequences, right? That's why anytime and we've both done it, right? Confession is good for the soul, right? Anytime we've done it, we weren't thinking about the real consequences. Again, it puts us in the immediate moment. In emotional swings, man, they kill your consistency. They kill your consistency in your business. They kill your consistency in your life. So the key is for you and I to stay calm, to drive ourselves this year, not on emotion, but on principle and in harmony with our long-term goals. Now that might sound strange, like, why would you remove emotion from the equation? Why would you do that? That doesn't make sense to me. Why would you remove emotion from the equation? Here's why. Emotion is an unstable motivator. I'll say it again. Emotion is an unstable motivator. Why? When our emotion is our motivator, our motivation and our motivation productivity will rise and fall with our emotions. So as emotions get low, we make bad decisions. Emotions get high, we make bad decisions. Emotion is an unstable motivator. Now, here's the problem with unstable motivators. It leads to inconsistent feels in our business. When we're all one way or then all the way another way, we're here, we disappear, we do that. It creates inconsistent feel. Inconsistent feel with clients and inconsistent feel with recruits. That's why emotion is not a good motivator. Principle is the motivator. Here's another thing to think about when we're driven by emotion. It impairs our focus and our discipline. Here's why. When we are driven by emotion, we are more likely to recall negative than positive because of the way our brains work. Our brains file negative first to protect us, right? Good for helping a species continue on. Bad for business, because when we're emotional, our mind moves to whatever feeling is the strongest, and negative is going to trump positive 9 times out of 10. So we don't want that. What we want to do is go into 2026, no zigging, no zagging, forward marching on our goals, running down our goals, not getting zigging out here, not getting zagging out here. The problem with zig and zag, right? And I talked about this one of the videos I sent out. I'm going to keep sending more of those out between high producers and high performers and low performers. Low performers are always trying to use strategy to fix what is an activity problem, right? They're always got to change your strategy, change your strategy, change your strategy. You got to change my strategy again. You got to change my strategy again. But we don't address the activity problem, right? So that's the zigging and zagging that we can't do this year. No zigging, no zagging, just straightforward. These are my goals. I'm running them down. I don't care how I feel. Because here's the problem. Anytime we wander from the path, the only 2 emotions that can occur off the path are confusion and discouragement. I'll say it again. The only 2 emotions that can occur once we get off the path are confusion and discouragement. Straightforward, no zig, no zag, 2026. Straightforward, running down the goals, no matter how we feel, no matter who ticks us off, no matter how good it gets, right? Because I'm going to talk about too high and too low, right? Too high is a problem too. We get too high, we get off track. We get off track and then we cause confusion. And confusion eventually causes discouragement. So straightforward, no, and here's the thing. This is an easy decision to make. It's an easy decision to make. I'm going to get straight on the path 2026, no zig, no zag. Easy decision to make. It's staying on that decision that's tough. See, staying on the straight path, that's proof of character. Because character is the ability to keep a decision long after the emotion in which we made the decision has passed. We'll think about the trip. We're going to release the trip soon, right? The trip will be released and everyone will know what the trip is for 2026. And there'll be a lot of emotion like, yeah, I'm going to do the trip this year. I'm going to make the trip this year. Character will determine if we make the trip. Because character is the ability to see a decision through long after that initial emotion has passed. The same thing with promotions, right? One of the things I'm so proud about Mimi as she is growing and getting promoted, she's not sitting and celebrating. She's got bigger fish to fry. She's got bigger things to run down. I love it. I love it. Character, proof of character. You win by staying steady, not dramatic. I'm going to say something next, and it's 3 words, but this, if you will just hear me out, this is an absolute foundational truth. It is true in the same way that gravity is true. Gravity is always true. You hear me use that illustration a lot. If you jump off the building here, if you jump off the studio here, you're not going sideways. You're going straight down because gravity is always true. So what I'm going to say next is true in the same way that gravity is true. Consistency outperforms intensity. I'll say it again. Consistency outperforms intensity. Think about it. Intensity, right? We're going to come out of National Convention. We're going to be all just intense, and that's good. But if you don't bring consistency to the table, the intensity will always fade. That's why consistency over the long haul will always outperform intensity. Steady progress, straight path. Dramatic bursts of energy, they burn out. You'll see it after convention. You'll see people pop in big recruiting numbers, and then by February, you're like, where did they go? They were talking smack that they were going to take over the world, they were going to pass everybody, and, and now it just disappeared. Why? Dramatic bursts of energy eventually burn out. Now, I'm not saying don't get excited at the convention. Get excited at the convention. Get the intensity. But just know that consistency always outperforms intensity. And you've seen this, right? We've all seen friends that they get all intense on their new physical fitness. I mean, they're posting before pictures. They're all in it, and they're intense. But they don't get results because they're not consistent. See, instead of going crazy with all the intensity, like I'm only going to eat raw broccoli for the rest of my life, and I'm doing 3 sets at the gym every single day, and then I'm going to get up at 4 a.m. every day and run 10 miles every day. They'd be much better off just doing 30 minutes on the Peloton every day, because consistency will always outperform intensity. All right, so let's talk about never too high, never too low. You're going to get high this year, right? Because you will get results. If you do these things, you will get, if you're consistent, you will get results. There was, and again, this is what I'm so proud about Mimi. She's not letting this get her too high. She's staying focused. She's staying consistent. Dear Lord, some people, if they ever hit national manager, they would lose their mind. They'd wake up in the bushes at a TGI Fridays after celebrating for a month. I'm just telling you, that's what most people do. That's not character. Character is consistency. Here's a problem with getting too high, right? And again, I'm so proud of Mimi for not doing this, because if she did get this, guess what? There's 2 deceptive things about too high. Everything feels bigger than it is, and everything also feels more permanent than it is. When we're too high emotionally, because we just passed a bunch of people, we got the promotions, we got some big paychecks. When we get too high, we think that it's bigger than it is, and we think that it's more permanent than it is. Now, here's the danger in that. You will let up on the behaviors that got you the results. You'll let up on the behaviors. Why? Because you overassume the permanence of it. You've got to continue to stay in the behaviors that got you there if you want to get to the next level. Here's the other thing. The intensity of the emotion when you get yourself too high, it causes you to assume that everything will be perfect from here on out for forever, right? We might think about it like the honeymoon period, right? You go through a honeymoon period, everything's perfect. But the problem is there'll be honeymoons and then there'll be dummy moons, right? If you want your marriage to make it, consistency, stay in the middle. It's never as high as you think. It's never as permanent as you think. But then on the other side, it's also never as bad as you think. But we're going to get to that in a minute. I want to stay on this too high. Here's the other problem. When we're too high, we will misremember the work, and we'll over-remember our brilliance. I'll say it again. When we let ourselves get too high, we'll misremember the work, and we'll over-remember our brilliance. So these breakthroughs that Mimi's had, she's put in a ton of air miles, a ton of phone minutes. She has invested. If she got too high, she would misremember that. And we've all been there, right? We're all just humans working together, trying to keep each other in line, right? When we let ourselves get too high emotionally, when the victories start coming, we'll misremember the work and we'll over-remember the brilliance. Now, here's why that's such a danger. When we misremember the work, we won't want to go back to the work. I'll say it again. When we misremember the work, we won't want to go back to it because we shouldn't have to, because I'm brilliant. I mean, I'm brilliant. You saw what I did. You saw my promotions. I shouldn't have to go back to that work. Now, here's what's dangerous about that. That path leads to a little village called entitlement, where I'm owed this, I'm owed that, I'm owed. So off to work I don't go, right? So misremember the work, over-remember your brilliance. That's a problem. Here's the point. We don't want to let the successes we're going to have this year, because if we do what we're supposed to do, when we're supposed to do it, in the spirit of service we're supposed to do it in, and we stay consistent like I was talking about, in the beginning of the call, we are going to get crazy results. But here's the thing: we don't want that success to trick us into relaxing. Once we do that, our discipline slips. We start cutting corners. We drift from the successful habits and behaviors and disciplines that got us there. And then all of a sudden, complacency slips in. Complacency breeds entitlement, and then everything's not fair. Here's the other problem: getting too high. You stop seeing small problems build up. The lack of urgency impairs your perception. So we don't want to get too high. Now, here's the other side of the coin. We don't want to get too low. Why? Because if we stay consistent in our disciplines, just like we're going to have major breakthroughs, we're going to have discouraging things. We're going to have things that happen. We can't let that get us too low, because that'll cause us to zig or cause us to zag and take us off our straight path. Here's what I want to talk to you about when it comes to too low. Write these 2 words down. Just write these 2 words down. Get a tattoo. I'm not big on tattoos, but if you wanted to get one, this would be a good one, because it's a good thing to remember. Stress lies. I'll say it again. Stress lies. When we're under stress, the problem feels far bigger than it actually is. That's why I say stress lies. Stress is a liar. But yet we act on it as if stress is not a liar. See, when we let ourselves get too low, it's jumping to conclusions. And what are we doing? We're acting in faith on faulty information. Stress is telling us one thing, but stress is a liar. Stress lies. Remember that when you're going through the tough things that you will face this year. I faced tough things this year. In 2025, you face tough things in 2025. What do you think is going to happen in 2026? We're going to face tough things. Just remember, stress lies. Emotional drops are temporary so long as you get up and keep moving. And I've seen people do this in the business. They have a hiccup in the business, and then they just sit there and they just mope. You'll see them at conventions, and it's like they haven't added anybody new to their business. They don't have any growing legs, and all they want to talk about is what happened when. What happened when their upline hurt their feelings? What happened when their number one guy quit? What happened when that big annuity canceled? What happened when? It's a choice to stay down. It's not a choice to get punched, because that's going to happen. It's a choice to stay down. Just know this: grit is a choice. You weren't born the way you are. You are just like me. We are currently how we are allowing ourselves to be. We are currently how we are allowing ourselves to be. So if we're in a mopey season, we're allowing that. Or go back to too high. If we are over celebrating and underworking, we're allowing that. We are currently how we are allowing ourselves to be. So here's what I want to do as we get in the back call. I want to give you some psychological tools to help you not get too high, to help you not get too low. Because the more we can stay in the middle, the more we can stay on the straight path, the more you and me are going to get done this year. All right, number 1, when facing adversity, your brain follows your breathing. This is one of the most basic physical tools. When something bad happens, when something frustrating happens, when somebody offends you, when a carrier absolutely screws something up and it costs you money, your brain follows your breathing. When you face adversity, let your breath be your first word. When you face adversity, let your breath be your first word. If you control your breath, you control your emotions. Slow down, delay your feelings. Slow down, delay your feelings. Because again, if we go back to the front of the call, if we don't, we're gonna zig, we're gonna zag, we're gonna get off the path. We're gonna get off the path. And here's the problem: once you get off the path, you don't get to come straight back to the path. You got to go all the way back to where you got off the path, and so you've lost all that time. All right. So first thing is, your brain follows your breathing. Second thing is this: your thoughts follow your questions. Your brain follows your breathing. In through the nose, twice as long out the nose. And I mean, a nurse will tell you this. You can bring your blood pressure down by doing that. I've I read it in a book one time, so I tried it and it works. Yeah, it's true. And I've read a lot of books since then. So your brain follows your breathing, your thoughts follow your questions. So when you go through when you get punched, when you go through something tough, we want to stay stoic. How do we stay stoic? We control our breathing, we control our questions. Good questions calm the brain, bad questions cause panic. It's up to us which spiral we're going to cause. But when we get punched, we're going to spiral up or spiral down. Just know if you ask bad questions, you will spiral down. If you ask good questions, you will spiral up. Here's the questions that you want to ask, and this is the best way to define it. Ask, when you go through these tough times in the business and in life, ask the questions of the reality you want to create, not the questions of the reality you don't want to create. Ask the questions of the reality you want to create, not the one you don't create. Low performers, they go on the spiral down. They go on the spiral down. Just like when we're too high, everything's too big and too permanent. When we're too low, guess what? It's the same thing. We're too low, everything's too big and too permanent. I'll never ever be able to, I'll never recruit again. I'll never be able to win a trip again. I'll never be able to, right? So just know, you ask the questions of the reality you want to create, not the reality you don't want. Now, this is especially difficult when you go through stuff where a carrier will screw something up. That's not your fault. Somebody else caused that. Okay. Vital that we start asking the questions of the reality we want to create. So just remember, your brain follows your breathing, and then your thoughts follow your questions. Your brain follows your breathing, your thoughts will follow your questions. So some stoic principles here to just remember as we start winding down the call. Focus on what you can control this year. What can you and I control? The three things: action, effort, attitude. Now let me tell you, action is the first one to control, because the others will follow the actions you take. You can say, I'm going to change my attitude, I'm going to give more effort. Immediately change action. Put action in, attitude and effort will follow. I promise you that. I promise you that. You have the bad cancellation, immediately get back on the phone. Attitude will follow, effort will follow. Here's the other thing. When you are going through this year, to stay stoic, focus on inputs, not results. And you say, but you also say we need to focus on results. If you want to grow, you need to go get recruiting numbers. Yes, that's true. That is true. That is very true. Focus on inputs, not results. Focus on quality inputs, and they will come. Here's the key: being accountable to the activities that will create the results. What activities are those? Selling, recruiting, building by driving depth. And we say, well, I'm on every call. Fantastic, you get a gold star. So take that and go sell, go recruit, go build every single week. These are things, guys, that I know if you will just act on in faith, they will work. They have worked for me. All through my 25 years of doing this, there have been times that I've been too high. There's times that I've been too low. If you can stay in the middle, and I spent less time on the too high because, you know, we can all kind of check each other on that. The problem was the too low. When you start to feel too low this year, ask what's the fact, not the feeling. Respond with logic, not emotion. What would future me want to do? As you go all throughout this year, let January 2027 you help guide the ship. Because I know January 2027 you, that version of you, wants you to stay on the straightforward path. Doesn't want you to zig, doesn't want you to get too high, doesn't want you to get too low. That 2027 version of you wants you to respond with logic, not with emotion. That 2027 version of you wants you to use your breathing to control your brain, use your questions to control your thoughts. Your 2027 version of you wants that for you. And so let me give you one last practical thing here. Make sure as you go into 2026, You have your emotional first aid kit in place. What's in your emotional first aid kit? People, media, and visuals. People that you know will be strong for you, people that you know won't commiserate, people that you know won't give you the, oh yeah, it's really sad, isn't it? That's really too. I'm so sorry. Right? People that want you to win, media, stuff that inspires you, and visuals of what it is you're trying to create in 2026. Guys, Holly and I love you. We want you to win more than you can possibly imagine. We want 2026 to be the best year in the history of your family. We got momentums on a lot of fronts. Now would be the time. Now would be the time to go all in, every week selling, every week recruiting, every week building. Let's get out. Let's get after it. See you next Monday.